The big news in February is the convergence of timelines. It's nothing short of massive, and it is happening now. Actually, it's about to happen, and I'm going to tell you exactly when as we get into it. But this is a 24,000 year cycle, and it corresponds to the Yuga cycles. We're going to talk a little bit about that. Lots to say on that topic, so stay with me. I'm also going to go over the Metatron frequencies from January, and those were specifically about the crystallization of the higher human expression. So again, we are moving into a completely new human form and new human state. And finally, I'm going to give you a message from the Galactic High Council, who came in last month as well. Think of a group of dignitaries who are coming in with the message for this month. And this one is about our current situation, our current state, and also our galactic neighbors. So lots to talk about. There's just a lot going on right now. I'm Paige, Energy Healer and Channel, and this is your February energy update. So please do take a moment to like and subscribe if you enjoy the content, and do hit that little bell to be notified when new content is uploaded. So let's get into it. This year is going to be a huge year of transformation and change. And you're seeing that, I'm sure, in a lot of the different videos that you're seeing online. There is just so much going on. So today I'm going to give you a slightly different perspective on all of that. I'm going to give you the information that I get when I channel. And so it will be similar to some of the other things that you're hearing, but also there should be some different pieces to this. So hold on to your hats for February. Well, we're already in it, but we still have a little ways to go. And going into March, because this is going to be huge. We are in a moment of convergence of timelines, and this conversation started back in December with Metatron, and the Metatron frequencies in December were about the crossing of timelines. And as I sat with that a little bit more, what I discovered was it was actually the convergence of timelines. So this is getting into something called Yuga cycles, which I am not too familiar with. I've looked at a little bit of this information, really prompted by hearing Pam Gregory talk about this way back in October. And at that time, I had just been getting this information from my guides that we had a 5-month window that would end in March. And I've talked about this quite a bit in these updates. And that 5-month window was our opportunity to go higher. It was our opportunity to really expand and to completely shift in huge ways. Think about a window of transformation. And that window does close, and they were saying the window would close mid-March. Well, I turned on a video by Pam Gregory and heard her say that there was a Yuga cycle that was going to close in March, and that this was a tremendous moment. And I thought, okay, I need to look at that. It took me a while to get back to it. In fact, it took me until just a couple weeks ago when I was thinking, okay, I need to look into these this 24,000 year cycle and see if I can figure out where that's coming from. So if you watched the update from January, I talked about it a bit, and I said, if you've got any information about cycles, bigger cycles from different cultures or, indigenous texts and whatnot, then share that with me, because I'm trying to figure out what this corresponds to. So then I looked at the Yuga cycles, and sure enough, I'm getting that yes, it does correspond to the Yuga cycles. And that information is coming in from Syrians. So that's important, and I'll tell you why in just a minute. But I am going to share with you the image. So I found a great website called the Human Origin Project, and they have a really nice image I'm going to share with you here right now. This image depicts the cycle, the Yuga cycle. And what you'll see here is that there's an ascending cycle and a descending cycle. The ascending cycle is 12,000 years, and the descending cycle is also 12,000 years. And so those together form the full year, or what they call the Great Year, which is a 24,000 year cycle. Now there are some other numbers that you'll see on the page, and a lot of numbers that you might hear if you're looking at these. But my guides are saying that yes, this is the 24,000 year period that corresponds with this timeline convergence. So I thought that that was pretty cool. I think that there's a lot, of course, that we could look into from that point. If I had more time, I would research that. But I'm content just to know that that's what that's representing. And what that means is it's just more confirmation, right, of this tremendous moment that we are in. How this might feel for you is that you might feel like reality gets a little bit wonky. I talked about this before, because what this means is that timelines from the past, meaning past lives, and timelines from the future, meaning all of our future lives, are coming together in this moment with our current lives. And that's going to open up lots of little wormholes, you could say, where you might feel like you're just momentarily pulled into a memory, like a really strong deja vu moment of a past life, something that you can't quite place, but it feels so real and so much your memory. You also might get the strong nostalgic feeling. You might also get glimpses from the future, and this has happened with me a couple of times. I've heard other people say that, yeah, they're getting the same kind of thing. On a couple of occasions, I've had a moment where I felt like I was looking back on the now moment, but from a perspective of about 100 years into the future, as if I were looking back on, say, the early 1900s and thinking about how odd it was that we used to do things in this way and how it seems so completely backwards and outdated. I was actually thinking about things that we're currently doing. And it came through in a flash, but was so very real. So this could show up for you in a lot of different ways, and I have a feeling that people will experience this differently based on how they get information. So you might be more of a kinesthetic type. You might feel things more. You might be more visual. You might get a lot of really nice visuals. You might be more auditory, where you're kind of hearing into something. It might just show up as information. It might just show up as like words on a page that you're reading. There's really no way of telling because everyone is so different. But just look for that. Look for those moments. And also, I say moments, but we may also just be hit over the head with this. It's hard to say. I think it could go either way, and also that could be a very individualized experience as well. So the final point on the Yuga cycles that I wanted to put out there is that corresponds to Sirians is that if you scroll down that page, you'll see at the bottom of the page on the Human Origin Project a subheading that's something like what causes Yuga cycles. And they mention the star Sirius as being the one constant, unmoving star in our sky. And if you read more about that, that'll make more sense. But I thought that was fascinating because, of course, Sirius is the home of the Sirians. Let's move on now to the Metatron frequencies from January. And I want to just have you keep in mind how all of these pieces tie together, because I'm touching on a lot of different things, but all of it overlaps, interweaves, creates this bigger picture of where we are right now. So let me pull those up for you. Okay, so the Metatron frequencies from January, and this, of course, is the free meditation that I do on the Insight Timer. It's a channeling and a frequency meditation. Quite strong frequencies that come through in those. You can watch or listen to the recordings here on my channel. There are a lot of them here. You can also join me for that. I'm not doing them every month in 2025 because of the very intensive work that I've been doing with the Galactic Center and the Human Reformulation. I have cut those back. So I'm not doing one in the month of February, but I will be back in March on the Insight Timer. So in January, the topic of the session was the crystallization of higher human expression. And the frequencies that came through were first the release of the collective memory from the light body of each individual. Second, the joining of separate beings merging into one, so I call that a oneness frequency, and we've had that quite a bit. And the third was a higher geometrical order being expressed or being created. They do come in that order. The first one is the one that really jumps out at me. The other two I'll tell you a little bit more about in a minute, but the first one is the one that's very unique for this moment. And this release of the collective memory from the light body of each individual is like a cleanse. It's like the biggest, deepest cleanse of our collective history. Think of all the horrors that have happened, all of the wars, all the tensions, all of the resentment and ages-long disputes. It's a releasing and a cleansing of that collective memory. And what's interesting is that it's from the light body. And I did ask if it also meant from the field of human consciousness when this was coming in, when this information was coming in. And the answer was no, that it was specifically about the light body. So that is kind of creating a separation between the concept of this field of consciousness and each individual's light body and what levels of consciousness are held in that light body or how they intersect and interact. So I thought that that was pretty fascinating. So that's fantastic cleanse for each individual on that level. So, you might take advantage of this time to think about anything that you want to release as well. Like any kind of like long-standing grudges or old family grudges or old issues, even cultural. There are a lot of cultural dynamics between countries where there are issues that have been in place for, disputes and arguments and tensions that have been in place for hundreds of years. It is possible for us to release these things. And just think about what that would mean. Think about what that would mean. A clean slate. So the other two frequencies in this Metatron channeling, the one about the merging and of the creation of a higher geometrical order, are two frequencies that have come through multiple times in these meditations. I've been holding those since 2021. And they represent a moment of change, a moment of shift where something new is taking form. So the joining of two things emerging into one, and then that creation of a higher geometrical order is what takes it to the higher level. It takes that new state of being, that new formation, to the higher level. So that's where we have the theme of the crystallization of higher human expression. So thinking about it in sequence, we have the clearing of the light body and then emerging to higher energies, higher frequencies, and the creation of the higher geometrical order, which gives structure to that higher expression, to that new state. So this is huge. So that is here on my channel. You can listen to that. You will receive the frequencies listening after the fact. So if you missed it, do go ahead and listen and join me for that next one in March. I'll put the link below. So now let's talk about the final piece, the message that we have from the Galactic High Council. This is the message for the month of February. Now this is the same council that came through in January. And in January, I'm just going to remind you actually of the last few messages that have come through, because there is a progression, and of course it speaks to the whole everything that we're in right now. So let's go back to when we first had a message from the Galactic Center. The Galactic Center are these very, very high-level beings from the center of our multiverse who are working through me, offering the human reformulation process. So I'm channeling that. Side note, I will be holding that again in April. If you're interested, do use the link in the description to sign up for my email list, and you will find out about those sessions. So they started coming in November, and this is a very, very advanced group, more advanced than a lot of the other groups that we're used to working with and talking about. Sorry, this actually goes back to October. So in October, they were announcing the reformulation, and they specifically said you are being reformulated. And I've talked about that quite a bit, so I won't go back into it, but latent DNA is being activated, being expressed, and 5 dormant energy systems are coming back online through the reformulation process. Now, what they've said specifically is that everyone is going to reformulate. That's just part of what we're in. It's this whole process that we're talking about, this metamorphosis. But the reformulation that they offer specifically with these very intensive sessions speeds that up quite a bit. So they say that the comparison is for people who have done no work, think people who have put in no effort, who don't really have a spiritual expression or not connected to their higher expression, it would take about 300 years for them to complete that reformulation process. For those who are the most highly spiritually evolved amongst us, the enlightened beings, it would take about 50 years. They are anticipating that it will take about 3 years, possibly 3 to 5 years with the work that they're doing. So that gives you just a little bit of a sense of what that's about. In November, they came back and talked a little bit about our planetary resources being replenished and some new discoveries about that we would be making about the amplification of energy. And then in December, they were back again, and they talked about the expansion of time having brought us to the intersection with the future of our species. And it was in December that they started holding those reformulation sessions. They were very specific about wanting to start in December. So it had to do with this overlap with our future selves that created a huge opening or opportunity. And they wanted to take advantage of that to move at a quantum pace. And so now, in January, we had the High Council. The High Council is actually a council that the Galactic Center sit on, and it represents multiverses. So the Galactic Center are the representatives from our multiverse, and then there's the rest are this High Council. So think of dignitaries coming into the room. It really has that feel when they show up. And I will say that I was not expecting any of this. They completely surprised me, and I'm just going with it and relaying for you what's coming in. In January, they talked about the need for us to acknowledge and connect with our galactic neighbors and to acknowledge ourselves as part of a larger galactic community. And they've even said that it's necessary for the survival of our species for us to do this. So that was the January message. That's the abbreviated version. And now in February, I'm going to read you the message they have. Many are arriving to watch what is happening on your planet at this time. So that would be galactic neighbors arriving. Your success in the process of evolving quickly from one form to another, if it is successful, would have widespread implications for many other species. It is with great interest that these, your galactic neighbors, observe. We wish for you to understand the nature of your being. You are composed of 1,000 points of light that can be rearranged in endless formations. This is the plastic or pliable nature of your existence. You have given permission for those who assist you, and those would be the galactics that work with us on a regular basis, the Arcturians, the Sirians, the Pleiadians, Andromedans, and others. You've given permission for those to guide the process of reforming the human. Trust that you are in good hands. And it's really all about trusting in the good nature and truth, and knowing that there are universal truths. Okay, so that's all of the information that I wanted to give you this month. Oh, except I just realized that I forgot to tell you when the convergence of timelines was actually going to happen. And it is set to begin at the end of the month of February. That's what the Syrians have said, the end of the month of February. So buckle up and hold on to your hats, and we will see what we are in for. And that is all of the information that I have for you, though I know that it can be helpful to think about what you can do, right? We have so much going on right now, so many big changes, and as someone who works with people every day and works with energy healing and observes what's happening with people, I can say that there has been so much shift and change and just the releasing, clearing, moving to new places. It's been tremendous to watch, and kudos to everyone who is doing the work, putting in the effort, because you are getting there. What's going to be really important for us this year, and this is something that came through from Archangel Gabriel in one of my angelic attunement meditations just last week, is that we need to be able to stay in our center. We need to be able to remain grounded, remain present, but also to put ourselves into our higher expression, to move into that higher expression. So instead of reacting, getting upset about things that you might be seeing around you, which can be quite upsetting, especially right now, with so much happening, and that seems to be happening behind the scenes. What we can do is stay in our higher expression. You can ask your guides or ask any of the angels to work with you, or any other beings that you're connecting to that you know are of a higher nature. Ask them to help you align to your higher expression. You can listen to any of the channelings that I have here. All of them have frequency transmissions and uplifting messages. All of that will help you to move into your higher expression. And remember that the fastest way to shift your frequency and to really move into higher states is to work with channeled frequency. So again, lots of that here for you. If you're ready, get started. Remember, our window of time closes mid-March. We are not far from that. Okay, so that's a lot of information for you. I hope that you've enjoyed it. Have a wonderful rest of your month, and I will see you in March with some more updates on whatever crazy things are happening at that point. Take care.